For some Black women, the hardest question isn't, what should I do? It's, what do I want? Because when you've spent years noticing what needs to be handled, who needs help, and what everyone else is depending on you for, your own desire can become very quiet. And when it finally gets loud enough to hear, I want to move abroad. I want a different career. I want a life with more room for me in it. Responsibility starts questioning it. But what about my mother? Who's going to handle that? Is this really the responsible thing to do? Because when being responsible stops being something you do and becomes who you're expected to be, desire can start feeling irresponsible. And that's what I want to talk about today. I'm Tori, a licensed therapist and creator of Soft Landing Circle, a guided nervous system program for Black women moving and living abroad. My work is about helping Black women recognize the survival patterns that can follow us into the lives we worked so hard to create, so those old roles don't keep making new decisions for us. And if you're navigating the emotional side of creating a life somewhere new, I linked my free resource, 10 Things Nobody Tells You After Moving Abroad. It's below. There's a reason so many women resonate with the phrase eldest daughter syndrome. It's not a formal diagnosis. It's language people use to describe what can happen when responsibility becomes part of your role very early. Maybe you were literally the oldest daughter. Maybe you weren't. What matters is that you learned to orient toward what needed to be done before you learned to ask what you wanted. You got good at knowing what was necessary, what was practical, what was responsible, what everybody else needed. And there may be love in that. There may be pride in being dependable. There may be real satisfaction in knowing that people can count on you. So I'm not asking you to reject responsibility. I'm asking you to notice what happens when being responsible becomes connected to being a good daughter, a good sister, a good mother, a good friend, or simply a good woman. Because then desire doesn't simply get to be desire. Desire has to defend itself. You don't simply get to say, I want another year abroad. I want to spend Christmas somewhere else. I want a slower life, and I don't want to be the person everybody calls first anymore. No. Instead, your desire enters a courtroom. You start building a case, why it makes sense, why nobody will be inconvenienced, why you can still be available, why you're not abandoning anybody, why you've earned it. And by the time you've made your desire acceptable to everybody else, you may not even be able to hear what you wanted in the first place. Because being responsible probably gave you something. Maybe it gave you approval, predictability, a sense of control. Maybe being useful helped you feel secure in your family. Maybe anticipating everybody else's needs helped you avoid criticism, conflict, or disappointment. Maybe you learned that the easiest way to prevent something from going wrong was to take care of it before anybody had to ask. So even when you move thousands of miles away, the role can come with you. You moved, but you're still managing the family chat, still solving problems across time zones, still considering what might happen back home before making decisions about the life directly in front of you, still keeping part of yourself permanently available for an emergency that hasn't happened. And here's what's easy to miss. Your family may not even be asking you to do all of that. Sometimes nobody has asked. Your body simply learned responsible women stay ready. And this is why I don't approach this by simply telling a woman to choose herself. Because if being responsible has become connected to safety, belonging, or being a good woman, knowing that you should make a different choice isn't always enough. We have to get curious about the role itself. What has being the responsible one protected you from having to feel, risk, or find out? Because that's usually where the real work begins. Maybe choosing what you want risks disappointing someone. Maybe it risks discovering that another person is capable of handling something without you. Maybe it risks being misunderstood. Maybe it means sitting with the discomfort of knowing someone isn't happy with your decision and not rushing in to fix that discomfort for them. So when desire says, what if I chose this because I want it? There's no emergency to solve, no burnout giving you permission, no airtight explanation, just wanting. And for a woman accustomed to duty, that can feel surprisingly vulnerable. The quieter cost is that you can make years of responsible decisions and slowly build a life that doesn't have enough of you in it. Everything gets handled. Everybody knows they can count on you. Nothing appears to be falling apart, but your own life keeps getting scheduled around everybody else's possible needs. Maybe next year, let me make sure everybody's okay first. I can do that later. And later keeps moving. This is where duty can become a socially acceptable form of self-abandonment. Not because responsibility is bad, but because if duty always has the deciding vote, your desires never get to become a life. You gave yourself permission to cross an ocean. You may now need permission to stop living as though you're still on call for everybody you left behind. Put both feet on the floor if you can, and let your shoulders drop a little. You don't need to make yourself relax. Just notice what happens in your body when I ask this question. What do I want right now that I keep turning into a responsibility question? Notice where your mind goes first. Money, family, who might be disappointed, who might need you. You don't have to solve any of it right now. Just notice how quickly your desire gets surrounded by obligation. That reaction is information. Choosing desire doesn't mean becoming careless. It doesn't mean you stop loving people. And it doesn't mean you become unreliable. It means responsibility becomes something you choose rather than an identity you have to obey. There's a difference between I care about this, so I'm choosing to help, and if I don't handle this, what kind of a daughter, sister, mother, friend, or woman does that make me? One is care. The other is identity pressure. You can be dependable without being permanently available. You can love people without organizing your future around their possible disappointment. You can consider other people without disappearing from the decision. And you can want something before you have a respectable reason for wanting it. Desire is information. It doesn't have to become an emergency before you listen to it. So this week, when you're making one decision, don't begin with what's the responsible thing to do. Begin with what do I actually want? You don't have to promise yourself you'll choose it. That may be too big a leap. Just let your desire answer first. Then bring in the practical things: money, timing, family, consequences. All of that still matters, but let your desire get a seat at the table before duty takes over the entire meeting. That's the practice. Not becoming irresponsible, becoming included in your own decision. And this is where watching another video can only take you so far. You may recognize yourself as the responsible one, but understanding exactly what that role has been protecting in your life and where it's still making decisions for you is personal. You can understand why you became this woman and still find yourself repeating the same response. So the question becomes, how much longer do you want this role deciding what happens next? This September, I'm opening up just 12 spots for a 3-hour intensive for the woman who's done outsourcing her life to a role she never chose in the first place. The woman who's ready to find out who she is when duty isn't automatically in charge. Maybe there's already one place in your life where you know this pattern is costing you something. A decision you keep postponing, a boundary you keep negotiating with yourself, a desire you keep explaining away, a version of your life you can see but haven't quite given yourself permission to choose. That's where this work gets personal. I am intentionally limiting this experience to 12 women because this isn't about collecting more information about yourself. It's about getting close enough to one pattern to understand what it's been protecting, what keeps activating it, and what becomes possible when you no longer have to automatically respond from that role. If something in this video made you think, I'm done letting this version of me decide what happens next, pay attention to that. The details for the September intensive are linked below. Read the page, see if you recognize yourself in the woman it was created for. Because you are worthy of a life that belongs to you, and you do not have to stay chained to a role someone else chose for you.